All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Picture this. Recently, down in Tampa, a financial planner is standing at the front of a packed retirement seminar, delivering the exact same line that pretty much every advisor repeats. But then, a guy in the third row named Robert raises his hand. See, Robert had claimed his Social Security at age 62, 3 years earlier. He'd actually crunched the numbers himself, even though his advisor flat out told him he was being reckless. So how in the world did Robert end up with $84,000 more in his brokerage account than his buddies who waited? Well, it all comes down to the math that nobody really wants to show you. But today, we're laying out the concrete data. Look, if you walk into almost any financial planning office in America right now and ask when you should claim Social Security, you're going to get some version of this exact quote. Wait until 70. Always wait until 70. They'll tell you to maximize it. Just hold off, earn that 8% annual delayed retirement credit, and lock in the bigger check for life. I mean, it sounds incredibly responsible, right? It sounds super disciplined. But what if the math proves them totally wrong? Because for a massive chunk of Americans, specifically, we're talking about folks turning 62 in 2026, this advice isn't just a little bit off, it's mathematically flawed. The real longevity data and the investment arithmetic simply do not back it up. The conventional wisdom relies on this total fantasy set of assumptions that you're absolutely going to live well past your statistical life expectancy, that you won't spend a dime of your checks in your 60s, and that there won't be a single policy change to the program. To really get to the bottom of this, we need to dismantle this advice variable by variable. So here's our roadmap. We're going to cover the wait until 70 myth, break-even math and investing, the trust fund cliff, the asymmetric spousal strategy, health span versus lifespan, and finally, making your claiming decision. Okay, Section 1, the wait until 70 myth and its hidden assumptions. The financial services industry has literally built an entire claiming philosophy around a math problem that asks you to know the unknowable. To actually win by delaying until 70, you have to live long enough for those higher checks to offset the 8 years of income you entirely skipped. Now, to be fair, the spread between claiming ages is really dramatic. Say a worker turning 62 in 2026 is scheduled to get $2,000 at their full retirement age of 67. Claiming early at 62 means taking a permanent 30% haircut down to $1,400. But waiting until 70, that pumps it up to $2,480. That's almost a $3,000 per year gap between the early claimer and the late claimer. You can completely see why that bigger check argument hooks people. Surely, bigger is better. Well, yeah, if you live to be 95, sure, but actually, most people just don't. Which brings us to Section 2, break-even math and investing, or what I like to call the $84,000 head start. Let's run the actual numbers here. A retiree who chooses to claim at 62 gets 60 months of payments before the 67-year-old sees a single dime. At $1,400 a month, that is a massive $84,000 banked right out of the gate. When that 67-year-old finally starts collecting, they're only getting an extra $600 a month to catch up. Divide that $84,000 head start by the $600 difference, and your break-even point doesn't hit until roughly age 78 or 79. Wait until 70, that break-even gets pushed all the way out to 80 or 81. So, the elephant in the room, what happens if you simply don't make it to those break-even ages? Well, you collect fewer total dollars. Full stop. According to the Social Security Administration's own actuarial tables, a 62-year-old American male has about a 53% chance of surviving to age 84, which means 47% won't make it. It is practically a coin flip. Roughly 1 in 3 won't even make it to 78. But the financial industry rarely talks about this. They just implicitly assume this universal longevity that doesn't actually exist, especially for working-class Americans whose life expectancies often run way shorter than the national averages. And survival isn't even the biggest variable they ignore. The real game changer is what happens when you actually invest those early checks. Imagine our 62-year-old takes that $1,400 and just drops it straight into a standard diversified index fund. With 0% return, your break-even against a 70-year-old is age 80. But give it a 5% real return, that early claim pile balloons to about $115,000 by the time you're 70. Suddenly, the mathematical break-even point is pushed out to age 84 or 85. Hit a 6% return, and you're looking at age 87. If you've got the discipline to invest the early money, delaying has basically no mathematical advantage during a normal lifespan. You're just converting the delayed promise into a present-day hard asset. Let's move to Section 3, the trust fund cliff and the 2033 deadline. we have to account for one more massive variable. Now, advisors love to brush this off as fear-mongering, but guys, this is objective, hard data from the Social Security trustees and the Congressional Budget Office. 28%. That is the projected benefit cut starting in 2033. After 43 years of bipartisan kicking the can down the road, the trust fund is speeding right toward a funding cliff. Think about it. If you're delaying until age 70, dreaming of that maximum benefit, you are gambling that Congress will magically fix this program before 2033. If they don't, that massive delayed check of $2,976 suddenly shrinks to something like $2,143. Taking the money at 62 locks in your schedule before that risk fully becomes reality. All right, Section 4, the asymmetric spousal strategy. This is the insider secret, a really powerful optimization play for married couples that generic planners almost never take the time to map out. The key here is understanding exactly how survivor benefits actually work. Now, standard advice says both spouses should just wait until 70 to maximize the future survivor payment. But with an asymmetric strategy, it's a whole different ballgame. Say the lower earning spouse claims at 62, drawing maybe $630 a month, they immediately bring $37,800 of actual spendable cash flow into the house over 5 years. Meanwhile, the higher earner waits until 70, locking in their maximum delayed credit. When the higher earner eventually passes away, the surviving spouse still steps up to that maximum survivor benefit. It is an absolute 1-2 punch. Your household captures a decade of early income that standard advice totally ignores while perfectly protecting the surviving spouse. Up next, Section 5, health span versus lifespan, or the experiential math. Because let's be real, retirement is not just cold, hard spreadsheets and dollar signs. It's about your actual lived experience.
We have to talk about health span. This is the period of life where you are actively able to do the things that make life, well, worth living. We're talking hiking a trail, traveling without being totally exhausted, physically lifting a grandchild. This is completely different from your total lifespan. For a lot of Americans, their active, vigorous health span closes out a full decade before their actual lifespan does.
And this is the cruel irony of that wait until 70 gospel. It's all about the timing. Your 60s, those are your go-go years. You can still climb those ancient temples in Cambodia, drive through Tuscany, teach the grandkids how to surf. If you wait until 70, you are literally trading supplemental income during your most physically capable decade for larger checks during your slow go and no-go years. You're shifting money away from the time you could use it for incredible lifelong experiences into a period when your spending drops and you honestly just want a really comfortable chair. No spreadsheet on earth can calculate the value of 10 summers of memories you actually had the energy to enjoy. Finally, Section 6, making your claiming decision. Generic advice is terrible because it serves absolutely no one perfectly. So how do you decide? Let's look at a framework you can use right now to evaluate your own reality. You need to walk through this checklist with brutal honesty. Step 1, assess your actual health. Family history of issues? If longevity isn't looking great, the math tilts hard toward claiming early. Step 2, evaluate your other assets. Got a solid 401k or a paid-off house? Step 3, assess your investment discipline. If you take the money early and just blow it on nonsense, then delaying acts as a good forced savings plan. But if you'll actually invest it, early claiming wins. Step 4, run that asymmetric spousal math we just talked about. Step 5, account for that looming 2033 trust fund cut. And Step 6, optimize for the experiential value of having cash in your 60s versus your 80s. When you actually sit down and run this framework, a huge percentage of Americans find out the right answer is claiming early. The danger here is incredibly simple but profound. Operating on default settings will cost you over the decades. The always wait rule is just one of dozens of generic prescriptions handed out by an industry that directly profits when you leave your own assets under their management while living off the government's dime. Everything is connected. Your choices about Social Security sit right on top of your choices about debt, compound interest, and basic financial literacy. Which leaves us with one final big question. Are you ready to rewrite your default financial settings? Robert, our guy from Tampa, he rewrote his. He took his check at 62, whisked his wife off to Portugal, and invested the rest. Look, he might not nominally break even by the time he's 85, but he has already lived the kind of experiences that a spreadsheet just can't measure. Don't let a generic one-size-fits-all formula dictate the absolute best years of your life. Build your financial literacy, do the math yourself, and make the choice that actually fits your reality.